Howdy everyone, and welcome back to The More You Grow. I'm back out here on the porch forest with another build, but you may hear behind me in a little bit, it's about to start raining, so I'm going to see how much of this I can get done before it starts. We'll just have to play it by ear. And speaking of rain, the rain barrel is working amazingly. If you haven't seen that episode, I'll leave a link to that above, and I'll also put a video up of it in action on Instagram and on Facebook if you want to see it in action. But that's not what we're doing in this episode. This episode is about our dragon fruit again. We just transplanted these not long ago, but it's already time to be thinking about another container because they are growing very fast. They're very fast growers. And since dragon fruit is a vining cactus, we have to give it some support. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a dragon fruit trellis in a container. I had some ideas from other people's videos and I kind of added my own. So I'll leave a link to their videos down in the description, but I'll also point out what I'm going to do differently. So come along with me and I'll show you how to train your dragon fruit. Sorry, I had to do it. So let's go check it out. Alright, so I think the rain's going to hold off for us until we can get this done. So let's go back here to my motorized workbench, or my tailgate. As y'all probably noticed, that's my go-to workbench. Let's start with what container we're going to use to plant our dragon fruit in. I'm going to use a 5-gallon bucket, as I do in many of my projects, because it's inexpensive and easy to find, and it just works really well for what we're going to try to do. The first thing we're going to need to do is we need to drill some holes in the bottom for drain holes. Dragon fruit like good drainage, so we need to talk about the soil here in a little bit, and we need to make sure we have good drain holes in the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 3/4 inch paddle bit. We're going to be using that for another part of the project in a minute, is why I chose that. And we're going to put some holes in the bottom of this. So let's get to that and then we'll go into the next step. Okay, so we have our drain holes. I think this is going to give us some good drainage and make sure that it doesn't get too waterlogged on the bottom. But I'll have to check as that goes along. I think this is going to do the trick though. So now what we need to do is we need to work on our support for our dragon fruit to grow up. And what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to take this 2-inch PVC pipe, and this is going to be our center pole. And I'll bring y'all down here and show y'all what I'm looking at. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to put this 2-inch PVC pipe in the center here, and we're going to drill some supports into the bucket so that way it doesn't fall over or move around in the soil or anything. But I think this is going to be a good center pole to start our trellis with. The way we're going to support our 2-inch PVC center post is we're going to carefully drill holes into the side of the bucket and into our 2-inch PVC, and carefully mark where we do this so that way it lines up. And we're going to put a 1/2-inch piece of PVC through that, and we're going to put caps on the end, and that's going to keep it steady and it's going to keep it from moving around in the bucket as we get it planted. Alright, so we've marked where our holes are going to go. All we have to do now is get them drilled. Okay, so my holes are going to be just a tiny bit small, so all I got to do is take a pocket knife, kind of ream them out a little bit, so that way this is going to fit. So we have our side holes drilled. We've got holes on opposite sides down here at the bottom, and we have 2 holes on opposite sides up here at the top. And staggering these or crisscrossing these is what's going to give this some more stability in this container. So now all we need to do is we need to cut our supports. To cut our supports, all we need to do is come up here, run our PVC pipe through, our 1/2-inch PVC pipe, and we just put a little bit through. We'll mark this on here with a marker to see where we want to put it. We're going to leave a little bit of room for some caps to go on the end because that's what's going to hold these in. So let's get that done and I'll show you what it looks like when I get done. Okay, so we've got our supports cut, and the reason why I've done this first is I want to be able to mark on our center pole where these line up at, so that way I hit the right mark. But the way these work, we're just going to slide that in like so, and then we've got some PVC caps we can slide on the end, and that's going to hold them in. So now we need to get our pole ready to go, and we'll get that put in. Okay, after our drilling and measuring, I still ran into a problem. I got the holes lined up right. I actually had to redo one of them because it didn't line up just right. But one thing I didn't think about is when I had to push one of the PVC pipes in, it kind of made a bulge on the bottom of the bucket to where it doesn't sit just level. So that could be a problem you run into, but there's a solution. It fits inside of the bucket lid and makes it nice and steady. So not perfect, but it'll do. So we need to go on to the next step, adding our soil. Let's talk about what soil dragon fruit like. As far as soil goes, dragon fruit is a cactus, so it likes well-draining soil. It does not like to have what they call wet feet or where it's soggy around the roots. It does like more water than your average desert cactus because this is a tropical cactus, but it still needs well-draining soil. So what I've got here is I've got some citrus, cactus, and palm mix, and that's going to give us the well-draining, fast-draining soil. We might add a little bit of perlite to this to give it a little bit more drainage, and if you needed more drainage after that for some reason, you could add a little bit of sand, but I think this is going to be enough. As far as nutrients, the dragon fruit doesn't need a ton of nutrients like a lot of other plants might. It does well on average soil, even sometimes a little bit poor soil. So it's not real picky, guys. It doesn't have to have a whole lot of anything. Just as long as you give it well-draining soil and a little bit of nutrients, they're going to do fine. So let's add our soil, and then we need to go up and work on our trellis some more. Alrighty guys, I had to shift locations. I had to come over here and get in the shade because it's starting to get hot out here. But as you can see, I've added a little bit more to our dragon fruit trellis. I wrapped the center pole in burlap, and what that's going to do is that's going to help provide a moisture source and an anchorage source for our dragon fruit as it grows. We will still water the base when it needs it, but you can also get some water a little bit on this burlap, and that'll help it with some nutrients if you were to add a micronutrient solution to the burlap, because dragon fruit, as it grows, develops these little aerial roots. In nature, these would climb up trees and other large objects. They use these roots to anchor in and to get a little bit of nutrients out as well, but mostly for anchorage. So having this on here will give it the anchorage it needs, and we're also going to kind of support it a little bit as it goes, just for a little extra security there. So now what we need to do is we need to get the top of our trellis built, what these vines are going to go up and over as they get big enough. So let's get to that. The first step in getting our top support on is we need to drill some holes. What I did here is I drilled a hole on each side of this post, so there's going to be 4 holes altogether. We got some rebar here. I believe this is a 2-foot piece, and we're going to slide those in, try to get them even if possible. And so we have a cross up top here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some cattle panel here. You could use some concrete mesh, you could use a lot of different things, but we have a lot of cattle panel around here. So I'm going to take this, put it over the top here, try to line it up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to crisscross this into the rebar, so that way it'll be a little bit more stable. So once I get that done, I'll give you a look at what it looks like. So as you can see here, I've got this rebar kind of woven through our cattle panel here, and that makes it super stable. It's not going anywhere. This other piece of rebar is just there to make sure it doesn't teeter this way or that way. So I think it's going to be good. So all we need to do now is we need to get our dragon fruit all planted up. We have some of our yellow dragon fruit here that we started from grocery store growing. It's been doing great. I've never seen dragon fruit grow so fast as these yellow dragon fruit, and I can't wait to see what they do in our new trellis. So we're going to undo these here from their little support, and I'm going to take them out of the pot here, hopefully. Ooh, falling apart on us. Okay, so going to put one on either side. There's enough room for 2 in this, I believe. We're going to give it a shot anyway. Okay, so I've got my dragon fruit separated here. Got one planted there. Now we're going to take our second one and put somewhere just right over here, I think. So what we need to do now is we need to get a little bit of twine, and we're going to support our dragon fruit until they start anchoring themselves in. But we'll continue to support it over the years as it grows as well. Okay, so I've got our yellow dragon fruit all planted up. I've secured them on here with some twine, just loosely wrapped around and tied on to where it's not cutting off any of the water flow or nutrient flow, but it's still keeping them on there. I've wetted down the burlap just a little bit, and that's going to encourage these aerial roots to start forming and attaching themselves into the burlap, going after that water. Another cool thing with this burlap here is you could add some micronutrients to your water if you need to fertilize your dragon fruit a little bit, and the aerial roots could pick up some of that in this burlap when you soak it down. And that's really all there is to it on this, guys. Well, there you have it, you guys. I hope you found this video useful if you're trying to grow your own dragon fruit containers at home. I got a lot of the ideas for this video from Spicy Exotics on YouTube. I'll leave a link to their videos down below if you want to go check those out. And this is something that might change over time. I might have to make a few adjustments, but that's something we'll adjust as we go along. So if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you have any more questions for me about anything I did in this video, or have any suggestions for future videos, leave them down in the comments. I'd love to see those. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Go check us out on Facebook and Instagram, and hit that bell icon for notifications. And until next time, I hope you'll join me right here on The More You Grow.